everybody. Welcome back to Yoga Story Express. And today I have a special guest, Chelsea Dygert. Hi, Chelsea. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Absolutely. Chelsea and I, we connected kind of like through social media, right? You come down to Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, my husband and I love coming down to the Bentonville area, and every time we do, we have to take a class at Yoga Story. We love you and all the other instructors and always have a good time there.
Yeah, but you and I have personally kind of connected through Instagram. I have a love-hate relationship right now with social media. I've kind of
Mhm.
gotten off of Instagram from an app perspective, like on my phone.
Mm,
And I only am posting stuff through Meta just for anxiety control and to control that doom scrolling. But I think it's the love part of that relationship is being able to connect with people who either don't live in this area or who I wouldn't necessarily have a day-to-day relationship with. And you're one of those folks. So you and I connected personally outside of the studio through Instagram, and you're in the Branson area, correct?
correct, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your certifications of as a yoga teacher.
Yeah, well, I am an ERYT 500 hour. I also have a certification in trauma informed yoga through Yoga Alliance with Y12SR, which was an incredible training. And I highly recommend everyone get certified in some form of trauma informed yoga because it's a whole beautiful, complex world that I think just helps you to connect with your students a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I've been telling my yoga classes a lot, this focus on embodiment and somatic, like those buzzwords that's coming around. It's
Mm,
been practicing that for years and years and like thousands of years in yoga because we believe and we know that the mind and the body is connected. So it's a very natural progression for yoga teachers to want to be trauma informed because of that connection. When you move your body, stuff starts to happen emotionally and mentally, and some of those blocks start to come down.
exactly. Yeah,
Yes,
it's been incredible.
that's great. Well, how long have you personally practiced yoga?
So I can remember, excuse me, I can remember doing yoga, quote unquote yoga, in my bedroom when I was like 10 years old because Madonna did it, and I thought that that was so cool.
Right.
Um, but I would say my journey with yoga really started in 2010, 2011. I was a barista for years, and the little coffee shop that I worked at here in Branson was getting ready to close, and I was young and I didn't know really what I wanted to do with my life. And I honestly just thought being a yoga instructor sounded cool. And I love, like, I always say it's like the sneakiness of yoga where you might be drawn in for like the pretty postures, but then the whole beauty of yoga kind of sneaks up on you and grabs a hold of your life. And it's completely transformed my life for the better. And I'm so glad that it did.
Yeah, I tell people, I'm like, it's fine if you want to come to yoga class just for the asana because it can, strengthen your core and whatever, but we're gonna get you. We're gonna get
Yeah,
you with the
exactly. Yeah.
philosophy. We're gonna get you with the real yoga if you
Yeah,
just
and
come
I'm
for the
so glad it
asana.
got me. I'm so glad.
Yeah,
It's changed
same,
my
same.
life for the better. It really has.
Yeah. So you said a little bit of, why you got into yoga, and your yoga story, quote unquote, play on words there. But what keeps you practicing?
I think, well, first of all, like you said, the asana, the posers, the postures, it's just one of the 8 limbs. And I feel like as I am evolving as a human, all of the modalities, the breath practice, the mindfulness, the postures themselves start to unveil deeper parts of myself and I get to know myself better, which I feel like when we can know ourselves and love ourselves, we're able to like know others and love others better as well. So I love that it's something that is evolving alongside me and helping me to see deeper truths into who I am and into my own heart.
I am we started our yoga teacher training at the beginning of this month, and I have to teach a specific portion this weekend. Pop question, I didn't include this on the list of questions that I send my guests beforehand. What's your favorite yoga pose?
Oh, I love that question. It changes as I change. Lately, it has been Warrior 3, but more like an airplane Warrior 3. I feel like, especially when I can keep a little bend in my standing leg, I just feel so powerful and so strong. When I'm able to like center and ground and stay balanced, I feel like a warrior. And that for me has been really empowering lately.
And what's your least
Oh,
favorite yoga
half
pose?
moon, half moon
Oh,
all the
really?
time. I don't know if it's like an inner ear thing, but there's something about being like parallel to the ground with I don't it just throws me off every time.
And
I will
rotated kinda, yeah.
yeah, and they say the poses we avoid are the ones that we need the most, but I will turn that into a sugar cane or a standing split any day that I can because my Everest that I need to just face and learn how to find my breath and my balance in that space.
Well, I'm glad you didn't say boat or chair.
Or chair. Yeah,
Everybody's like,
I love chairing on a boat.
Savasana.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the one that everybody tends to avoid. What is, something in yoga philosophy or in the 8 limbs of yoga that you'd like to explore more? Because I think this is comes to light when I do the, 200-hour yoga teacher training, and people we try to explain to them that 200 hours is this huge umbrella. Like, we're going to give you like a covering, a smattering of what yoga is about. And then you take your continuing education credits and your maybe even 300-hour to drill down into what you
Mm,
want to focus on. For me, it was anatomy because I'm
mm,
also a personal trainer. But what is my weakness is more of the philosophical side, not necessarily like chakras or but I mean like the sutras.
yeah.
So, what would you say is something that you'd like to dive into a little bit more in your own personal practice?
Lately, it has been pranayama. It's been the breath, the breathing, specifically breath of fire. When I started my yoga journey, I hated breath of fire. I feel like it made me panicky. I
Mm.
hated the sensations that arose. And I feel like just practicing it every now and then, so many years later, for some reason this year, something just kind of clicked. And it has been such a huge healing modality for me, and there's so much with the breath alone, like our breath is so closely tied to our spirit. It's also how we detoxify a lot is through our exhales, and kind of just learning more. I'm such a nerd. If I find something I really love, I kind of become obsessed with it, and I go down rabbit holes of YouTubes and books and everything that I can get my hands on. So lately that's been pranayama for sure.
Well,
And
and I love how popular it's become now. It always makes me laugh. Well, just kind of back up a little. It always makes me laugh when the Western world finally catches up with
mm,
what yogis have been studying forever. And what the one thing that made me laugh is that they started, and they, of course, they always coin it in some westernized term, was the non-sleep deep rest.
mm.
People were saying, "Oh, non-sleep deep rest is the newest thing that you need to be doing. It's not meditation. It's not sleep. It's in between." And I'm like, "It's yoga nidra." I'm like,
Yeah,
nidra.
yeah, you're not new to that. Yeah.
Yeah. James Nestor has that book
Mm,
called Breath, and it's
love
like,
that book.
yeah, it's a great book, but it's also like stuff that yogis have known for a long time. But it
Absolutely.
talks about the science behind why these things work. Like, as a yoga professional, we do these things, the asana, the breath of fire, and people think it's just, oh, you're just funny breathing. You're just weird and doing this weird pumping with your stomach and whatnot. Now the science behind it is starting to catch up with the methodology that we always knew it works because our bodies and our brain are connected. And yeah, the breath of fire is one of my favorite ones now that I can
I
like
love it.
actually do it with a
Yeah.
don't
I say it's
before.
when science meets spirit. It's like
Mm.
it is they had these yogis thousands of years ago had this innate wisdom in them to know that for whatever reason these things worked, and now we're able to measure it and have those scientific explanations, which I think is so cool. It just proves that they knew what they were talking about. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. That they sat around and did it for long enough to be like, okay, when you do this and you do it consistently and you do it this way, this is what happens, that they had their own little scientific method in Breath of Fire. I teach some high school kids from a local private school, charter school, and they come in, and that's one of the first things that I teach them to kind of like loosen them up. We're gonna do this funny breathing breath of fire with the pumping of the belly. And let me tell you, the freshmen think it's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Well, you feel strange when you first start doing it. I mean, look at lion's breath. I mean, I'm trying to get my students to get more comfortable with lion's breath, but they're like, so you roll your eyes in the back of your head and you stick your tongue out? And I'm like, yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
awesome.
great. It feels really good and it's playful. And I
Yeah.
think that's something too that yoga teachers can give their students that we don't get in regular everyday life per se, especially people who have to kind of go to these more structured jobs, corporate jobs or office jobs or anything else that's where you have to wear certain clothes and be a certain way. So we don't have the element of play every day in our
Yeah.
lives. And with I did lion's breath today after some core work in class, and what myofascial release people understand is the tongue is connected to the pelvic floor. And
Mm,
so that can be very releasing after you do like intense core work or anything, even at the end of class, you do that lion's breath and it can be releasing not only through the tongue, but through the base of your pelvis,
yeah.
and pelvic floor. So you have a specialty that you do workshop wise called cacao ceremony.
Yeah.
And people may, if you run in the yoga circles, you've probably heard of cacao ceremony. But if you, for those that have not heard of what a cacao ceremony is, let's talk a little bit about what it is and why, like how you got into conducting them.
I first of all, I always feel so honored to host a cacao ceremony. I put my whole heart into it, so I only do it one time a year at different studios. I like to do it in the winter time just because it is a warm drink. So cacao is the purest form of chocolate. It's chocolate without any sugar added to it or anything, and you can eat it in like a bar form. You can get cacao nibs, which a lot of people get, in their for their smoothies um, or whatever. But eating it or drinking it, like making it into like an elixir with either water or milk, adding in some different spices that activate different areas of the body. It's a really powerful plant medicine. It's been used for thousands of years all around the world, and I've gotten the insane privilege to get to study it with some experts and some shamans in Costa Rica and in Mexico. Really just kind of doing a deep dive, working with it from bean to bar, bean to drink, and it's used as a heart opener, which I think is so beautiful because again, like they used this for thousands of years. So before we had the science to explain why it works as a heart opener, they just had that innate wisdom to know that that's what it was. But we now know that there's a molecule in the cacao that is basically like a cousin molecule to caffeine, where caffeine works as like a stimulant for the brain. This molecule in the cacao works more with the circulatory system. So it gets the blood flowing, which is why they, consider it to be a heart opener because you're getting this rush of blood to the heart. And when you do that in a ceremony setting, setting intentions, maybe some journal prompts, some asanas, some poses, maybe a little bit of a flow that centers around opening the heart space, all while sipping the cacao, it can be a really, really beautiful way to um, realize kind of what has been blocking the flow of your heart if you're holding back from showing love or receiving love, or even on the opposite side, maybe where your heart might be too open and you don't have those right boundaries in place to guard your heart and protect yourself. It just allows for a really great reflection time while also having that metaphysical reaction with the cacao. It's such a powerful ceremony, and I absolutely love hosting them.
I think that's a good balance to talk about too with the heart opening, that there needs to be appropriate boundaries in place. Like it's
Mm,
a good um, balanced discussion to have, that it's not just love, 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 love. It's also, hey, maybe you're too.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I'm, reformed people pleaser over
Mhm.
here and someone who thought that I could just love people into changing. because
Yeah,
I didn't have proper boundaries up. And so you can have too open of a heart chakra and too closed of a heart chakra. And then we talk
absolutely.
about the chakras, these energy centers from the base of your pelvis up through the crown of your spine, up through the crown of your head, that they spin both ways. That
Mhm.
they
Yep,
have the blockages where they spin one way, and then they have the openness where they spin the other way. We want them to be balanced, but some people can have too much of one and or not enough of the other.
exactly. Yeah.
So I like that you brought that up. So the asana portion of this particular ceremony is more heart opening. Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, so we'll do a little bit like kind of like a gentle flow just to kind of again get that circulation going and kind of break up some stale stuck energy. But then we'll kind of do some poses that specifically work around opening the chest, the pectoral muscles, the upper back. We also like to get into the hips because that is, it's just good to do no matter what you're doing, especially with yoga. But and for that emotional release. But we try to be mindful. I like to think of when you think of the heart chakra, it's often correlated with the chest, but it goes all the way through to the back, like between the shoulder blades. So even though we're keeping our heart open, we have to have our own backs. We have to have a strong back. We have to make sure that we're staying safe with our heart. So we focus on the front body and the back body in those postures, and that's only a portion of the practice, but it's a
Yeah.
great it pairs so well with that cacao.
Yeah, that physically I've been I'm a personal trainer and a yoga instructor, and so what I've been seeing a lot of lately is people with the too closed off in the front heart center and not strong enough in the back. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you think about that from an energetic standpoint, it's too closed off in the front with the inability to be vulnerable because you don't have the strength to withstand it in the back.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we've got to have that balance between front and back, not only physically, because then you're going to end up a little old lady or man hunched over with a hump in the back or pinched nerves or, different types of nerve issues. But then you don't have the ability to lead with that strong heart because you don't have, like you said, you don't have your back.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so there's also a sound element to this ceremony. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is, what all instruments you play and what people will experience with that.
So I use crystal singing bowls, and I've got seven. Each one is tuned to each chakra, and I feel like I like to think of it as the sound vibrations are activating that cacao within the body as we're resting at the end of our practice and journal prompts and everything. And I feel like it just again just pairs so well together to have that moment of reflection and just letting the medicine do its work in the heart as we rest. I do play that heart singing bowl quite a bit, so it's more centered around that. And then after practice, if people want, I can go around with that singing bowl and help hold it closer to their heart spaces and help those vibrations kind of penetrate a little bit more.
So what kind of experience are you personally wanting to cultivate for attendees?
I hope that people will come and just take it as an opportunity to get to know themselves a little bit deeper. Just I think it's so great, especially at the beginning of the year, to have this time of reflection on where might I be holding back? Where can I maybe give myself some more love? Where can I soften in these, maybe jaded or hard places? So I hope to create a safe space where the medicine can do its work and I can just teach what I know, and people can leave feeling centered and energized and balanced and excited for the journey ahead.
Well, that sounds like a really great experience and some good takeaways for people after the ceremony. And we are very excited to have Chelsea at Yoga Story on February 9th of 2025 from 4 to 5:30 p.m. For her cacao ceremony. What do people need to bring if they're going to be attending this?
Well, you definitely want to wear some comfy clothes, yoga clothes preferably. I always think since we're doing the sound bath portion, it's a great idea to have some warm socks. You can bring a blanket. An eye mask is really nice to have. It's not a necessity, but you definitely want to have a mug of some sort, and a journal and a pen.
Okay, great. Right. Well, this will be the one a year that Chelsea does
Yeah.
a yoga story. So make sure that you don't miss it. It is close to Valentine's Day. It's the weekend before, so or the Sunday before Valentine's Day. So it'd be a great thing for you to do as an individual, to either love on yourself or as a couple. If you have a partner that you'd like to bring, you can sign up for that at yogastory.info/workshops. I'll put that in the show notes. And I really appreciate you, Chelsea, joining me today for our podcast. And we look forward to hosting you on February 9th.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored.